Hi, everyone. Welcome to this video on how to use athlete monitoring with the University of Alberta Golden Bears and Pandas. So the first thing you're going to do is visit the website app.athletemonitoring.com, and that will take you to this login screen here. Your login credentials should have already been sent to you, but if you have not received them, please contact a member of the Varsity Health staff. So we'll go ahead and log in here. And that's going to take you to the home page where you will see all the teams that you have access to. For the most part, you will just see your one team. However, if you have access to multiple teams, you will see them all listed here underneath. Pandas Pickleball is, of course, just an example team for the purposes of this demonstration. When you hover over this and you click on the down arrow, what you'll see, the first thing that pops up is 4 main headers with different areas to access information. Under the alerts, you'll see anybody with an alert about something that would be concerning for their health. This is not generally an area that Varsity Health uses. However, you could see that, for example, sample athlete has a current or previous acute injury. We'll come back to the health section. When you move to the notes section, this notes section is going to show you all the notes that have ever been created about all of the athletes. So in this sample team, only sample athlete has ever had any notes created about them, but you can see them all listed here. If other athletes had notes created about them, those would be listed below here. The last section is athletes. This is simply a list of all of the athletes on the team. So here you can see 4 example athletes on our Pandas pickleball team. We're going to go back to the health section now because this is what you will most commonly use. Under this main snapshot page, you can see which athletes are currently or previously injured in the past approximately 6 weeks. So as we can see here, these bottom 3 athletes have not had any injuries in the past 6 weeks since April 25th. Sample athlete, however, has had an injury recently, and you can see the injury name reflected here. You can also see that over the past 2 weeks, they have been injured and not available. So the next thing we'll do is we'll actually go into what this injury is. So we're going to click on the name of the injury. And before we talk much about the injury, I'm going to show you at the top that this is now the athlete's page. And under this section, you can see things that are specific to the athlete. So we can go back to this dashboard here. The dashboard will tell you all the different things about the athlete you need to know right now. For example, they are no participation, they have a health problem, they have missed approximately 8 days. You can see again the injury listed at the bottom here. If we go over to the health section, this is more specific to the actual injury or injuries that the athlete has. The notes section is somewhat of a duplication of what we showed on the front page. However, it is just specific to this athlete. So this is all of the notes that have been created about this specific athlete. You can filter those by the type of note as well. The last page is not for your use. This is settings and information about the athlete. Please do not use this page. So we'll go back to this athlete's health page. From up here, we can actually pick different athletes as well. So what we'll actually do is we'll go to a different athlete. We'll go to this athlete whose name is not real. And from here, we'll show you how to create a new injury. One of your roles with your team will be to report injuries as they happen. And this is how you'll do that. So we, of course, have this little green button here that we can click on, and that's going to take us to the report a health problem page. From here, you're going to fill out all the various required checkboxes. So you'll be required to say if it is an injury or an illness, an acute injury or overuse. We're going to say this individual has an acute injury, and we'll say they have an acute injury to their ankle. So in the picture here, you can select the ankle joint. You could select front or back of the ankle, depending on what makes sense. Next, you can pick what type of injury or what type of structure is implicated. So we're going to say that a ligament has been implicated, and then all of the different types of ankle ligament injuries will now show up for you to select what the injury is. If you are not certain what the injury is, you can simply select the ankle picture and not select the type or the specific diagnosis. For this example, we will pick ligament, and we'll pick lateral ligament complex grade 1 acute sprain. You can indicate the level of pain that the athlete is experiencing. You can indicate if it is a new or pre-existing condition, what the priority is. So we'll say this is a low priority injury. You can say how the injury happened. There are many different options. So here we'll say that the injury happened during a competition. You can say what the mechanism is. We'll say that they contact with a teammate. They ran into a teammate. You can say what their training status is, whether they are fully participating, partially participating, or not at all. We'll say that they are no participation. And then at the bottom here is some sections that you can enter additional information. You are not required to enter any information here, but if there's other things that you think somebody should know, you can enter that information here. At the bottom is an area that you can actually upload documentation that you may have completed offline. The most common example would be you could upload a picture of a concussion assessment done on this individual. So we'll go and save and submit this. When you save and submit an injury report, anybody who has access to view this injury report is sent an automated notification from Athlete Monitoring to their email. So everybody will now have information to say a new injury has happened. So now we're back on that athlete's health page, and we can see the details that we just entered here. You can go back and edit the details if you need to make any corrections. Varsity Health staff can close the case or delete the case. Please do not use those bottom two functions. Once we've reported the injury, now we want to start to submit documentation on an almost daily basis about what we're doing with the injury. So that may be things like provided ice, the athlete used a game ready. It can also be informational. Athlete has appointment with Varsity Health staff on such and such date. Athlete got an x-ray on their ankle. So it can be treatment-based information or informational-based information. So to input this type of information, we're going to go to this clinical notes section. As you can see here, there hasn't been any clinical notes about this injury because we just created it. So we're going to add a new note. And what you'll see is this little pop-up box. There's two ways to enter a note, and almost always you're going to use simple mode. Advanced mode allows you to create actual SOAP notes, indicate what types of treatments you did, upload in additional documentation. So for the most part, you are just going to use simple notes though, or simple mode. In this box is where you can put anything about the injury that you have done or that you know. To start off every note, please type in the injury that you are speaking of, and I'll show you why that's important later. So for this case, we're going to have the ankle injury, and we're going to say athlete had an x-ray done on their ankle, and it was negative for fracture. Once you're done typing up your note, there's a couple of options you want to look at. The first one is whether the note is locked or unlocked. If you lock the note, only individuals with medical designation can see the note. For the most part, you should unlock all of your notes so that our coaching staff can see the information you're inputting. If you're unsure of whether a note should be locked or unlocked, please speak with a member of the Varsity Health staff. The other thing you can indicate is whether or not you want to notify or not notify those who are involved in this team. If you believe that the information is important for everybody to know in a timely manner, certainly send a notification. If it's nothing that needs to be known quickly, you can also select no. So we will save that note. And it will now be linked to the athlete's injury. So now we have the injury here, the acute lateral ligament complex ankle sprain, and underneath it, we have a note. Now, when we go back to the athlete's main profile, And here's that main dashboard page for the athlete. Again, we can see that injury. We can see the clinical notes that have been completed about it. And we're also at the place where we can see other things. The next thing we will look at is this notes section. Now that note that we just created about the student athlete has been populated here. The reason that it is important to type ankle before you start typing your note is that in this section, all notes about the student athlete will be here. So there would be no way of knowing if it was about an ankle injury or perhaps another knee injury, or if it's about no injury at all. So it's important to type what you are speaking to first. Otherwise, from this page right here, we would not know what injury we were discussing. That's how you will go through and report an injury and then subsequently create notes about what is happening with that injury or what you're doing with that injury. So let's go back to the main page and look at some other examples of information we may want to use on there. So if we go back into sample athlete who has a different injury, they have a left knee injury, they've torn their ACL. Again, this brings us to the athlete's main dashboard page. We can view the summary of the injury here. We can view the clinical notes specific to this injury here, or we can go to the top of the page and we can view the notes about all injuries in this section here. Again, you can filter to determine what type of note it is. Now, if we go back to the beginning and back to this page, we'll see that under this general notes section with all student athletes, we now have a new note created about the new injury to this athlete, their ankle sprain. This gives you a summary of how to effectively use athlete monitoring to report injuries and also to report day-to-day activities on those injuries, and how you can effectively communicate using athlete monitoring. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact Varsity Health.